Have you ever felt like life has been testing you beyond what you can bear? Like you've been walking through a wilderness season where nothing makes sense, where the prayers you've been crying out seem to echo back in silence, where every door you knock on stays shut. Let me tell you something today. You are not forgotten, you are not abandoned, and you are not at a dead end. God is setting you up for a blessing that is bigger than anything you could have ever imagined. What you're going through right now is not the end of your story. It's the setup. The very thing that looks like it's breaking you is actually positioning you. You see, before every major blessing, there is always a test. Before the promotion, there is preparation. Before the breakthrough, there is a battle. Before the promise, there is a process. And I came here today to remind you, God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating something so magnificent, so divine, that when it happens, you'll look back and realize that everything, yes, everything was leading you to this moment of breakthrough. I know you've been praying, fasting, and believing, yet it seems like things are getting worse instead of better. The enemy wants you to believe that the delay is a denial. But let me tell you, the delay is not God rejecting you. It's God preparing you. He is molding you, stretching you, increasing your faith, and building your endurance. You see, when God blesses you, He doesn't want the blessing to break you. He wants you to be strong enough to carry it, to sustain it, and to steward it well. Look at Joseph. He had a dream, but before he could walk in his destiny, he had to endure betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment. It wasn't because God had forgotten about him. It was because God was preparing him for something greater. And when the time was right, God took him from the prison to the palace in an instant. That's what God is doing for you. What looks like suffering now will soon be the very thing that launches you into your purpose. Oh, how often do we mourn over doors that didn't open, opportunities that slipped through our fingers, or prayers that seemed to go unanswered. But let me remind you, God is not in the business of withholding good things from His children. If a door closed, if an opportunity was lost, if something didn't work out, it's because God has something better in store. Sometimes, what we desperately want is not what we truly need. Sometimes, what we are chasing after is far less than what God intends to give us. That relationship that fell apart, maybe God was protecting you. That job you didn't get, maybe God was making room for something greater. Stop crying over what didn't happen and start praising God for what He is setting up. He's about to open doors that no man can shut, take you places you never imagined, and bless you in ways that will leave you in awe. You may be walking through a dry season right now, where it seems like you're struggling just to stay afloat. Maybe your finances are tight, your health is under attack, your relationships are strained, and your faith is being tested. But hear me today, the wilderness is not where you will stay. It's only a passing season. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, not because God wanted them to suffer, but because He was preparing them for the promised land. He was stripping away Egypt from their hearts, teaching them to rely on Him alone, and building their faith. Your wilderness is not a place of punishment. It's a place of preparation. And when God says it's time to move, nothing will be able to hold you back from stepping into your blessing. I know. You've been waiting for a long time. You've seen others get their breakthroughs while you're still stuck in the waiting room. And maybe you're wondering, Lord, when is it going to be my turn? But let me remind you, God is never late. He is never early. He is always right on time. What He has for you cannot be rushed, and it cannot be delayed. When the appointed time comes, everything will align, every obstacle will move. Every enemy will be silenced, and every piece will fall into place. Do not grow weary in the waiting. The waiting is not wasted. It's working. Your faith is growing, your patience is increasing, and your character is being refined. Trust that when the time is right, God will release the blessing with no struggle, no striving, no stress, jiving, no stress, divine favor. Have you ever noticed that right before a major blessing, the enemy comes in like a flood? The attacks increase, the pressure intensifies, and everything seems to go wrong at once. That's because the enemy knows that you are on the verge of a breakthrough. He sees what you don't see. He knows that God is about to elevate you, and he's doing everything he can to discourage you, distract you, and make you give up. But let me tell you something. If the attack is great, that means the blessing is greater. Stand firm. Hold your ground. Do not back down. This is not the time to quit. It's the time to press in, to pray harder, to worship louder, and to declare God's promises over your life. The tears you've cried, the sleepless nights you've endured, the weight of sorrow you've carried. God never wastes your pain. Every heartache, every disappointment, every moment you felt like giving up was shaping you, molding you, and pressing you into your purpose. The crushing you've experienced is like a seed being broken in the soil. It feels buried, forgotten, and hidden away. But in due time, that seed bursts forth with life. And that's what's happening to you. Your pain is birthing something powerful. The struggles you thought would destroy you are the very things that are qualifying you for the blessing that's coming. When God brings you out of this, you won't just walk out barely making it. You'll walk out stronger, wiser, and more anointed than you've ever been. The fire you've been through is refining you like gold, burning away everything that doesn't align with God's plan, so that when he blesses you, you'll know exactly how to carry it with grace and humility. Don't be discouraged if people have walked away, misunderstood you, or even betrayed you. Not everyone is meant to go where God is taking you. And sometimes, he will allow people to leave so they don't block the blessing he's preparing for you. Just like God removed certain people from Joseph's life to position him for greatness, he is also strategically placing people in your life for the next season. Some people were only meant to be part of your past, but God is bringing divine connections, destiny helpers, and people who will uplift you into your future. The rejection you felt was actually God's protection. The loss you experienced was necessary for the gain that's coming. When the blessing arrives, you'll look around and realize that everyone left standing was ordained by God to be there. And the ones who left couldn't stop what God was doing, even if they tried. God isn't just setting you up for a blessing. He's setting you up for restoration. The years the enemy stole, the time you lost, the joy that was stripped from you. He is bringing it all back. But he's not just restoring you to the way things were. He is restoring you to something greater, double for your trouble, beauty for ashes, joy for mourning. The blessing he's preparing is not just about adding something new to your life. It's about redeeming everything you thought was gone forever. The relationships you thought were irreparable, the dreams you thought were dead, the hope you thought you lost. It's all coming back. And when God restores, he multiplies. What's ahead of you is so much greater than what's behind you, and the blessing will be so abundant that it will spill over onto the people around you. The size of your blessing is often connected to the size of your faith. God is not asking you to have everything figured out. He's just asking you to believe. Believe that he is who he says he is. Believe that he can do what he promised. Believe that even when you can't see the way, he is making a way. Faith doesn't deny the reality of your circumstances. It just refuses to let your circumstances define your future. Even when the storm is raging, faith says, I know my God is bigger than this. Even when the blessing feels impossible, faith says, I know my God can do the impossible. Your faith is the key that unlocks the door. Don't let doubt or fear steal what God is about to release in your life. Hold on, stand firm, and keep believing, because your faith is setting the stage for God to move in ways you never expected. Let me tell you, you haven't even scratched the surface of what God is about to do in your life. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of men what God has prepared for those who love Him. He is not just giving you a little blessing. He is about to overflow your cup. He is about to make your testimony so powerful that when people see what He has done, they will know that only God could have made it happen. Get ready. Get positioned. Stay in faith. Your season of struggling is coming to an end, and your season of blessings is about to begin. So what do you do now? You keep trusting. You keep believing. You keep praising. You keep pressing forward. Because God is setting you up for a blessing that is bigger, better, and greater than anything you could have ever imagined. It won't be long now. The shift is happening. The breakthrough is coming. The blessing is on the way. Hold on. Child of God, your setup is about to become your step up into everything God has promised you. Beloved, you may not see it yet, but you are standing on the edge of something extraordinary. Every setback, every tear, every unanswered prayer has been building up to this moment. God has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned you. He has been setting you up for a blessing that will leave you speechless. So don't give up. Don't let go of your faith. Don't stop praying. Because at just the right time, in just the right way, God is going to show up and pour out a blessing so big that you won't even have room to contain it. Get ready, because the setup is almost over, and the blessing is about to begin.